Okay, we'll go ahead and get started with agenda item number 9. Wildlife Heritage Committee Commissioner and Committee Chairman Paul Valentine. Agenda item 9A, Wildlife Heritage Committee Report, Chairman Paul Valentine, informational. The Commission will hear a report on the committee's recent meeting. Commissioner Valentine.
Thank you, Chairman Johnston. The Wildlife Heritage Committee met on May 15th, 2020 at 3 p.m. Via Zoom. And an email was provided for public comment. All committee members were present at the meeting. We had 5 staff members were present for the committee, along with 25 members of the general public and NDOW staff. We discussed and made recommendations of the tag vendors for 2021, and we will discuss the selection in item 2B, 9B. Projects and funding for 2021 were discussed, and a recommendation for the commission was determined. And we'll discuss that with agenda item 9E. The meeting was adjourned at 4:22 p.m. Incidentally, the committee did not discuss or take action on Heritage Project extension requests, item 9C, or Heritage funding reallocation, which is agenda item 9D. Those are generally done prior to this particular meeting, and we didn't have an opportunity to do that. There was also one project, 21-22, that the committee did not discuss, and the commission can review that particular project. That concludes my committee report. If any of the committee members have anything to add, I'd appreciate it.
Any additions or questions? Okay, seeing none, then we'll move on to agenda item 9B. Commission Regulation 20-04, Amendment Number 1, Heritage Tag Vendor Proposals. Chairman Paul Valentine for possible action. The Commission will review the Wildlife Heritage Committee's recommendations regarding Heritage Tag Vendor Proposals for fiscal year 2021 and may take action on the proposals. Commissioner Valentine.
Thank you, Chairman Johnston. The committee determined that the heritage tags would go to the following vendors. For mule deer, Wildlife Habitat Improvement of Nevada and the Mule Deer Foundation. For pronghorn antelope, the committee selected Safari Club International Las Vegas Chapter and the Wild Sheep Foundation. For the Rocky Mountain elk tags, the committee selected Meadow Valley Wildlife Unlimited and Elko Bighorns Unlimited. For Nelson Bighorn Sheep Heritage Tag number 1, the Wild Sheep Foundation. For Nelson Desert Bighorn Sheep number 2 was Nevada Bighorns Unlimited Reno. And for California Bighorn Sheep Heritage Tag number 1, the committee selected Nevada Bighorn Sheep Unlimited Reno. For the turkey tags, there were 5 in total. One went to Safari Club International Las Vegas Chapter. Another went to the Wildlife Habitat Improvement of Nevada. One went to Meadow Valley Wildlife Unlimited. One to Las Vegas Woods and Water, and one to Northern Nevada Safari Club International.
Any questions for Commissioner Valentine? Any comments or questions before I take public comment? Seeing none, I'll open up the public comment on agenda item 9B, Commission Regulation 20-4, Amendment Number 1, Heritage Tag Vendor Proposals.
Rex Flowers for the record. The only thing I would ask is if there'd be consideration given on the pronghorn antelope tag to maybe take the tag away from the Wild Sheep Foundation and give it back to, or give it to NBU Fallon instead. That's a local NGO, and they're a growing NGO. They used to be very involved. They've reestablished themselves now, and they're trying to move forward. And this would allow for a little more excitement within their fundraising dinner. I think it would be best to try and keep as many tags as we can within our own in-state NGOs. So that was it.
Thank you, and good morning, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate being here. My name is Dean Heller, and I'm here on behalf of Safari Club International. It's great to be here. I want to thank everybody here before I get started for the work that you do. I'm not used to being on this side of the mic. I'm usually on your side, so it's kind of refreshing. In fact, I have to say it's the first time I've been in a hearing that I've had to wipe an earwig off of me. So I'll take it, though. By the way, I will take it. You know, I've been here for, I hate to say this, I've hunted and fished this area for 60 years now. It's just painful to say that I've been doing it for 60 years. But needless to say, I've had good experiences both hunting and fishing, and I can't thank this commission enough, the agency enough, for what you've done for the state of Nevada. And I know that watching and listening for the last couple of hours, I've seen how, and I'm aware of how difficult some of these decisions are. My comments today have to do with the heritage tags, the 2021 heritage tag for the elk, for the elk tag. As you know, Northern Nevada SCI has sold these tickets for the last 2 cycles. I think last year at our dinner it was $130,000 that they were able to raise. I think they put $132,000, nearly $250,000 the last 2 cycles for your projects that you have listed on here, which I think are incredibly important. The chairman or the president of the club sent a letter, and I think you all got a copy of it. And I was at a board meeting last week, and they really do feel like Northern Nevada SCI was shut out of this process this year. Not quite sure why. You saw the information that was in the letter. I don't really want to talk specifically on that except to say this, and that is SCI nationally and locally has done a tremendous amount of work for the state of Nevada. I mean, just the fact that SCI has their conventions both in Reno and in Las Vegas pours tens of millions of dollars into our economy, and has and plans to do so in the future. The amount of opportunity that a heritage tag like this would have with the relationship that not only Northern Nevada SCI, National SCI, but they're also affiliated now with Buckmaster. You're talking about 250,000 to 300,000 people that are affiliated that would work together to try to get the best dollars possible for the 2021 Elk Heritage Tag. So I know this is a recommendation, and the urge, of course, is that you would reconsider what the recommendations are. Give Northern Nevada SCI one of those tags, because I think that their past experience and what they've been able to achieve, I think has been pretty good. I would just make this point and then finish, and that is, if you think these tags are inelastic, if you think it doesn't matter with this economy, with the problems that we have here going on in the state of Nevada and across this country, about 30% unemployment, this economy is in tough shape. We need to put all of our energy into making sure that these projects can be funded, and the best way to do it is to do it through organizations that are tried and tested, especially going forward. So anyway, that's the urgency. If you could take a look at these recommendations, make that change, and if not, in the future, that the process be more fair, and that a organization like NNSCI, that I think has been very fair in the last few years, working very closely with this commission, and enjoys the relationship, that they're treated fairly moving forward.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the commission for further discussion or motion. Commissioner Vice Chair East.
Can you hear me? Yeah? Okay. I have to clarify a point with respect to Northern Nevada SCI. They called me one evening at home, and and asked when the applications were due for the vendors' proposals. And I said, gosh, I don't know, and I got online and I didn't see it, and so I reached out to Deputy Director Jack Robb, and he said, yeah, have them take it in and submit it so that they can be so they can go in for consideration. When it went in for consideration, it was considered under a late application, and I did not know it would be considered late. Jack didn't tell me that. I don't think he realized it would be considered late, to be, honest. And so, unfortunately, I think this particular NGO may have been given information by myself that wasn't completely accurate, and I apologize for that. I didn't ask further questions, so I just wanted to disclose that information so that it's on the record. Thanks.
Additional comments or questions? Commissioner Valentine, I believe we gave consideration to Northern Nevada SCI during the Heritage Committee meeting, and we didn't reject it because of the timeliness or untimeliness of the application. Perhaps you can refresh my memory.
You are correct. You're right on.
I think if to the extent there's a perception that the committee made its decision based upon whether or not the application came in on time or not, that's not my recollection. We just selected the vendors based upon the applications and what we thought was going to be best for the tags to raise the money for the Heritage Council. So I just want to clarify that, because I think that was one of the issues that was raised by Northern Nevada SCI. And again, we have a problem with, we only have so many heritage tags, and we have more vendors than tags. And we have some events that are bigger than others, and we try to do our best to allocate them. So I just wanted to clarify that. Commissioner Hubbs?
Uh-oh. It lost its charge. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I came in late, and I apologize. I was getting my son off with his grandfather. He's going to Reno now for 3 weeks, so I was making sure they're all transitioned. But I came back late. But my only gut feeling on this is many times it's the alternative. Southern Nevada, kind of, you hear this gripe about, oh my gosh, we got overlooked for the Northern Nevada, and I think it should be a little bit more harmonious between the state. I often see it on the other end. So I'm thinking, potentially, is the SCI International fundraising event much more lucrative, or is there a reason why we didn't consider the northern component with the southern? That's the only reason, because I think we should always consider both. We're all one state, and I'm not on that committee. I just want to make sure that everything was considered. Is this a monetary issue, or is this like we think both should go to the southern chapter because it's a better event, it's larger, there's more people coming to the Southern Nevada one? I'm not sure.
Generally, what we try to do is even play if we possibly can. I realize that so far as the Northern Nevada chapter is part of what we have to try to do with NDU, Elko, big ones unlimited. It's not like that. So we're just trying to be fair across the board.
That's got to be, I'm just going to interject again, it's got to be a very hard decision. I'm sure there's many people who would like to have these tags. I just wanted to make sure, so we know that it's not because anybody submitted a late application, and we're trying to balance. It sounds like it's not, and nothing to do with a north or south issue, which sometimes I hear to the contrary, like more, we're giving preference to the north sometimes, or we're giving preference to the south. I want to make sure we're balanced, and if that's all been factored in and considered, and it was a balance with all applicants, then that's how it goes down. And I can imagine how many applicants are not selected.
I don't know offhand. I just don't recall. You know, a lot of it's looking at, for example, the success that NBU Reno had with taking the tags and working on the online hunt auction and how that worked out. I can't say there's any magic to it when you're on the committee. I think there is some desire to spread them out geographically and amongst different groups. But I always hear like north versus south. Well, I'm from here. I feel like I'm in the middle. And we never hear about the middle. We always hear north versus south. But I don't think there's anything that, there's no discussion of during the committee meeting, like, well, we have to have this many in the south and this many up there. A lot of it's just history, who's got them in the past, who wants them. And the biggest thing is to say, how are we going to get the most money from the tags to put into the heritage account to then expend the money on heritage projects? I don't know. The other members of the committee can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think there's any real magic to it. Vice Chair East?
Deputy Director Rob, can you tell us the process for the applications going out? Because I understand that these NGOs rely on these tags to promote their events and things, and nothing is ever a given. I understand that, but can you tell us the process for how they're notified of the application due date and expectations, those things?
Jack Rell for the record. This year, the deadline was in the middle of our COVID shutdown, and so we did not send out a hard copy. We sent emails to every email address we had on record for the NGOs. And like I explained the last time, some NGOs have a dedicated email box, an info type box, and some goes to an individual. We did send out emails to all the NGOs. All the other NGOs did reply. The reason we have a deadline is so we can get it into the support material. It's not an it's a deadline so we can inform the commission of who's applied for what. When Commissioner East contacted me and said, hey, Northern Nevada Safari Club didn't get their information, I said, have them submit it. It's not a department decision on who the commission considers. And even though it wasn't in the packet the first time, it's been noticed now that Northern Nevada Safari Club does want a tag. So they're on the table. It's not they've been shut out by the department in any way. They were given the same opportunity as everybody, and even though they didn't get their stuff in by the deadline NDOW had put forward, they've been recognized and brought forward in another manner, and so I think everybody's been considered and given ample opportunity. And it's not a department decision, it really is a commission decision on whether they accept a late application or not. And we're all about, and Alan's going to go through things here in a second, we're all about making the most money for wildlife. So whatever the commission determines brings in the best money, that's what we support.
And I think I'd like to clarify something too. When you select a vendor, it's not as though you're saying the other vendor isn't worthy or that one group is better than the other. And it's like the prime example now. If you change something for instance, any one of these tags, you're gonna have to go back to another vendor and say, well, we took that tag away from you, and then they're gonna feel slighted. So
Yeah.
it's not an easy decision. Commissioner Almberg?
Yeah, just as a comment here, we started a couple of years ago, as a matter of fact, recognizing the fact that people are looking for these tags, they look for the event. And they're gonna buy that, they're gonna go to that event, they're gonna buy that tag, no matter where it's at. So we kind of started getting away a couple of years ago of going to a national vendor that wasn't having their tag sales in the state. And so that kind of was the criteria that we had discussed, is keeping it within state, But, some of these smaller events like Meadow Valley and Elko, these rural areas there, these tags help their event, and yet at no recognizable loss of revenue to the heritage. Trying to get as much as possible, recognizing that those people will go to those events or have somebody who rep go to those events to purchase them.
Commissioner Keel?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman Johnson. I think where I'm at, recognizing that the selection committee didn't disregard the Northern Nevada Club based on the late deadline. You gave them, a fair opportunity in their proposal. I don't need to rehash the committee's, entire selection process, so I'm comfortable moving forward with accepting the proposals as submitted.
I had one question. When is wildlife and habitat improvement of Nevada, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Any further comments or discussions? Anyone want to make a motion? Commissioner Keel?
Yeah, I'll move to accept the Commission Regulation 20-04 Amendment 1 Heritage Tag Vendor Proposals as selected by the Heritage Tag Committee. Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Keel, seconded by Commissioner Valentine, to approve Amendment Number 1 to the 2021 Wildlife Heritage Tag Seasons and Quotas CR 20-04 as presented. I would like to make sure, though, that for when it's wildlife and habitat improvement of Nevada, not wildlife and heritage. And it's Nevada Bighorns Unlimited Reno, not Nevada Bighorn Sheep Unlimited, as written there on the California Bighorn Sheep Tag Number 1. I'm assuming the motion, the movement and the second is fine with those clerical corrections. Is everyone clear on the motion? I'll call for the vote unless there's further comment or discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 9-0. I knew that gavel would come in handy someday. Move on to agenda item 9C, Heritage Project Extension Request. Chairman Paul Valentine, for possible action, the Commission will review committee recommendations and may approve extension requests from projects approved in previous fiscal years. Note, support material for this agenda item will be provided 1 to 2 weeks in advance of the Commission meeting. Chairman Valentine?
Thank you. Chairman Johnston, item 9C was not discussed by the committee, as I indicated in my report. So, Mr. Janae, can you help us out a little bit? I did review some of the recommendations, and I feel that the commission can make the decision going forward.
I thought this might come up, so I came up here to try to help you out. For the record, Alan Janae, Habitat Division Administrator. There are a number of extension requests. If it's fine, I'll walk through, read the project, the amount, the extension request. If you need specific detail, I could read the note, but there a preference as to getting the notes as to why the extension, or do you just, you've reviewed the material and you're good? Any preference, Chairman? Just thinking about time, there's a number of projects.
Well, I'm fine with opening it up to questions to Mr. Janae rather than going through each one. I mean, I read through the support material, so.
Okay.
Does anyone have any questions? It is an action item though, so we take public comment on agenda item 9C, the Heritage Project Extension Requests. Any public comment? I'm not seeing any public comment. Last call. Okay, no public comment. I'll bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Hubbs.
The only question, I don't have any issues with the extension request, but then the return to the account, that's the Robinson Spring Complex enclosures in the Diamond Mountains. I just wanted to maybe find out, oh no, we have a couple others. Bighorn sheep, capture, transplant, and monitoring, that's another one, and then the Tule Springs Lek juniper removal. So we have funds left over there, and the monitoring moose expansion in Nevada, and Douglas Canyon PJ removal. I guess those, maybe we should know more about why they're being returned to the account. Are those projects completed, or were those projects found to not be pertinent to the state anymore, or just a little bit of knowledge as to why?
So, for the record, Alan Janae, Habitat Division Administrator. Each has its own specific reason. Specifically, Robinson Spring enclosure, it was a partner program project with BLM and some private permittees. Basically, what it got to was further coordination was needed. We know the value of these dollars, so we don't want to have something sit on a shelf. Originally, this was something that was cleared for construction, but then disagreement in exactly what it was going to look like ensued, and so they said, while we're working this out, we'll return it, because they couldn't guarantee that it would be built this coming year. It might be a couple of years before this is worked out. So those dollars were returned, and just for your clarification, is the note return to account, is the way it works is those can be reallocated. Those dollars within that fiscal year approval can be reallocated to other projects that are still open. So that's one of the caveats. And so when we get into the next agenda item, which is the reallocation, we can discuss that opportunity where these return funds for that fiscal year could be reallocated to open projects. So moving on to other projects that are returning funds, item 1908, Heisenhood Basin, returning a whopping $168.80. Looking at item 2001, project 2001, Bighorn Sheep Capture, Transplant Monitoring. Project was completed. I don't have much more notes than that. The Tule Springs Lek Removal Project, or Juniper, that would be bad, Lek Removal. The Tule Springs Lek Juniper Removal is returning $57,127.75. The reason that is being returned is as the project was completed, there was cost savings in the project scope, and then also additional matching funds were brought to bear. The monitoring moose project was completed, unless Division Administrator Mike Scott had any other additional details. I don't have anything. And the only other one returning funds is the Douglas Canyon PJ removal, and they're returning $1.23. Total returns will be $74,729.08. So that'll be the next agenda item.
Any additional questions? Commissioner Keel?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll move to accept the Heritage Project extension request as presented.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Keel, seconded by Commissioner Barnes to approve the Heritage Project extension request as presented. Everybody clear on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 9-0. Moving on to agenda item 9D, Heritage Funding Reallocation. Chairman Paul Valentine for possible action. The Commission will review committee recommendations and may approve reallocation of any unused heritage funds from previously provided projects to other previously approved projects from the same fiscal year. Note support material for this agenda item we provided 1 to 2 weeks in advance of the Commission meeting. Commissioner Valentine?
I guess
Mr.
one
Janae?
question, Mr. Janae, in the situation that we don't have requests from projects within that time, that year, do those funds revert back into the heritage account to be reused?
For the record, Habitat Division Administrator Alan Janae. Those funds, if there isn't an open project within that fiscal year that could take a reallocation, then that goes back into that principal balance of the heritage account.
And do we have that situation on any of these projects that we can reallocate funds? I didn't see any.
Yeah, so, and that's something that we don't have it identified right here, but I could walk you by year as to which projects are still open and those that would be available for possible refunding, and or is to reallocate to that other programs. Some years it's pretty easy, like FY18. There's only so many that could even take funds, and then, as I said earlier, FY19 is only $165.80, so not much to redistribute there. And then FY20 is a little bit larger balance, but we could probably talk that through. This is a little bit different than we normally handle it, because we do normally have at the committee meeting.
Can you speak up, please?
At the committee meeting, we normally have the opportunity to go through and discuss where the reallocations and which projects are looking for those opportunities. I've had conversations during the COVID period to find those folks that are looking for some, and they're typically like for the larger projects, those larger expense projects.
Additional questions? Okay, it says is an action item. Any public comment on agenda item 9D, Heritage Funding Reallocation? Seeing no public comment. Discussion, comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll move to approve the Heritage Funding reallocation as presented.
Okay.
Excuse me.
I've
Chair.
heard about half of the discussion with the wind blowing and I'm hard of hearing, and so
Yeah,
I have a motion by Commissioner Keel, seconded by Commissioner Hubbs to approve the reallocation as presented.
we will need to identify where those dollars will go. What we know right now is we know how much each year has got open to be reallocated. What we'll need to know is where you want to reallocate those to. And so, if you'd like, I can very quickly walk you through these 3 years, 18, 19, and 20. The funds that are remaining, and then where possibilities to return those are. Any open project is where funds can be moved to. I can tell you where I've had conversations of folks that would be considerate of that.
Okay. then that's what I would like to hear, but I have a motion on that's pending unless the second and the person who made the motion would withdraw it.
I will withdraw.
Okay,
As will I.
all right. So, why don't you go through where we think we can reallocate the money? Then I'm gonna take it back out to public comment to make sure the public has an opportunity to comment on the reallocation, and then bring it back to the commission.
Thank you.
Because I thought maybe I just didn't hear the reallocation, but I didn't, but not, that's because we haven't heard it yet.
Right.
Got it, okay.
I apologize.
That's
It is
all
a bit
right.
windy. I will speak up. So
Please do.
in FY18, projects that are still open that have asked for extensions: Overland Pass, Go Shoot Mountain Springs, and the Cheatgrass Research. The Robinson Spring Complex enclosure returned $75,000. That is up for reallocation. The cheatgrass herbicide, there's really no additional need for further money there. The Go Shoot Mountain Springs restoration, additionally, there's no additional funds really needed there. So one that would probably benefit from that would be the Overland Pass Pinyon Juniper Thinning. There's totally an ability to add additional acres to that and be able to implement that project. Moving on to FY19, 1907 returned some funds or asked for an extension request. That one's still open. 1908 returned to the account. 1909 approved an extension request. 1910 approved a extension request. Let's see. And 1914 asked for an extension request. As I mentioned, the only one that returned funds unexpended was Eisenhood Basin Habitat Improvement Project for $168.80. So I think any of those that are open, that ask for the extension request and are still open, would graciously accept $168, and I don't think it would take much to spend that. FY20 projects that are open are 2002, I take that back, 2003. There's an extension request, so there's an ability to move there. 2005 is still open. 2006 still open. 2007, 2009, 2010, 2012, 2013, 2014, and 2016 are all still open. In total for FY20, there was 15. Nope, I take that back. There was 74,729.08. As I mentioned, there are multiple projects that are open for extension. 3 of the larger habitat projects that can easily add more acres and spend money quite quickly. South Mountains Habitat Restoration 2003, the Egan-Johnson Basin Habitat Project, North Cave Valley Habitat Restoration Project. Many of the others are smaller, kind of or more specific budgets associated with them. And that's what I've got.
Is everyone clear on the amounts for reallocation and projects? Okay, I'm going to take it back out to public comment on the reallocation agenda item 9D. Any public comment? Seeing none, and bring it back to the commission.
Chairman Johnston, it seems like I just wanted to note that some of these projects on hold for the COVID-19 matter or issues with gatherings, social gatherings. Do you think perhaps we should look at some of the projects that don't have those reasons for the delay and see if potentially we can move forward with those that aren't impacted by COVID-19?
Can I hear the question again? You know,
Yeah.
being outside was great.
Okay, what I'm saying is when I'm looking at this in a little bit more detail in terms of the reason for the extension or delay, many of those reasons or extension for the delay is due to our current pandemic, COVID-19. However, there are certain projects that were requested an extension that do not have a reason pertaining to COVID-19. So my issue is, since that is somewhat unpredictable, should we look at projects that are not delayed because of the COVID-19 pandemic, but for other reasons and their likelihood of completion at this time?
Fair comment, I guess. When I heard a lot of the allocations being recommended where money could be recommended or reallocated per the request of the department, the projects had not been affected. I was trying to get through this meeting without saying COVID-19. But I don't think the ones that I see here were affected by that, and would then the reallocation could go forward and the money could be spent, particularly on some of the habitat projects. So
I guess that seems very rational to me, so I just wanted to comment on that. And I think maybe our priority is to deal with things we can control somewhat and put the funds into those projects.
Vice Chair East.
Thank you. Alan, can we move funds from year to year, or do we have to allocate it within the year?
For the record, Alan Janae, Habitat Division Administrator. It needs to stay within the year. That is the way we operate.
Commissioner Allenberg.
I got a question. I'm assuming that we can actually allow that those funds, instead of reallocating them, we can just actually let it go back to the account itself.
You could, at this time, you could allow it to go back in. It would just add to that principal balance that's now above $5 million, which at the last legislature, they gave you the authority to be able to spend that balance above $5 million. And it's now sitting, I think, 9 point something.
Mr. Chairman. So, Alan, with the fiscal year 18, the 75,000 that's on the table, you had mentioned that the Overland Pass Juniper could use all of it, or did you mention 06 and 11 as well?
No, the others are much more limited in their scope, and they're pretty well funded right now.
All right.
But the other one, the Overland project, could take that and spend that.
Any other comments or questions? Commissioner Keel.
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Janae, can you give me the totals for fiscal year 18 and 19 that's
Mike.
allocated?
You bet. 18, FY 18 is 75,000 to be reallocated. FY 19 is 168.80. And FY 20 is 74,729.08.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'm prepared to make a motion, I think, if you're ready.
I am.
All right. So I'll make a motion that we approve the heritage funding reallocation as follows. For fiscal year, I'm sorry, I got my pages wrong. For for FY18 that the $75,000 for project 18-10 be reallocated to 18-05. That for FY19, the $168.80 for 19-08 be reallocated to 19-14. And for fiscal year 20, the $74,729.08 be reallocated equally to projects 20-03, 20-05, and 20-06.
Okay, I got a motion by Commissioner McNinch, seconded by Vice Chair East, for the reallocations for the fiscal years 18, 19, and 20 heritage projects. Is everybody clear on the motion? Is the department clear on the motion? Okay. Any further comment? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 9-0. With that, we can move on to agenda item 9E, fiscal year 2021 Heritage Project Proposals. Chairman Paul Valentine, for possible action, the Commission will hear recommendations from the committee and may take action to approve $1,268,276.61 in fiscal year 2021 Heritage funding, plus additional funds from the Heritage account balance above $5 million for projects submitted for fiscal year 2021. NRS 501.3575. The preliminary funding recommendations from the committee are listed below and may be approved by the Commission. I really approve this agenda with all these listed. Bighorn sheep and mountain goat capture, transplant, and monitoring project number 21-01, $68,900. Rocky Mountain elk population monitoring and harvest validation project number 21-02, $61,000. Marlatt Lake broodstock facilities passage improvement project phase 2 project number 21-03, $100,000. Wildfire related restoration and seed purchase project 21-04, $100,000. Desert Creek conservation easement project number 21-04, $100,000. Middle Rock Creek Habitat Improvement Project number 21-06, $125,000. Continued monitoring of moose expansion in Nevada, project number 21-07, $20,000. Snake Range Aspen Habitat Restoration project number 21-08, $30,000. Tonto Mountain Restoration project number 21-09, $66,000. Egan and Johnson Basin Restoration project number 21-10, $75,000. Area 10 Mule Deer Migration Corridor Habitat Enhancement project number 21-11, $50,000. Toyabe PMU. I'm really going to show my age. I need my progressives. Bates, Hickson, and Wolf Ranches Pinyon Juniper Thinning project number 21-12, $75,000. SC Shell Habitat Enhancement project number 21-13, $75,000. Enhancement of crucial habitat for antelope and mule deer in Washoe County, Nevada, project number 21-14, $100,000. A new population model for antelope to improve accuracy, identify limiting factors, improve management decisions, project number 21-15, $37,500. Investigating potential limiting factors impacting mule deer in Northwest Nevada, project number 21-16, $65,000. East Walker River Fish Habitat Enhancement project number 21-17, $11,191. The interaction between restoration, foraging, ecology, and mating behavior in Greater Sage Grouse project number 21-18, $65,855. Survey and maintenance of existing big game water developments project number 21-19, $36,000. Diet quality and composition of mule deer in the Toyabe Mountains following removal of pinyon juniper project number 21-20, $32,000. Cave Valley collaboration project number 21-21, $50,000. dissemination of results from delineation of lambing habitat, population demographics, resource selection, and movement patterns of desert bighorn sheep, project number 21-22, $46,000. Commissioner Valentine, I need to make something clear. One of these projects involves not only a longtime client of mine, but also a ranch in which I worked on a conservation easement issue in the past. And because of that, I'm not going to, in my close connection to that ranch, that family, and this easement issue, I'm not going to partake in the vote as it relates to that project. It's just a little too close to home with respect to that. Yeah, and I'll just tell you, it's the Desert Creek conservation easement. Well, yes, 2105, the Desert Creek conservation easement, and it is not in any way an indication that I'm against that project, or I just don't feel like I should be voting on heritage money going on that in those particular circumstances. Okay. Commissioner Valentine?
Thank you, Chairman Johnston. The committee deliberated considerably on this extensive list of projects, and it was determined that we wanted to fund all of the projects with the ability to utilize the principal balance above the $5 million. With the exception of Project 2121, which we didn't feel the fencing portion was appropriate for Heritage Fund utilization. And I think that the sum of that was somewhere around $32,200 for the fencing portion of that project. We also did not have the opportunity to discuss the Project 21-22 for $46,000, which for the dissemination of results from delineation of lambing habitat, population demographics, resource selection, and movement patterns. But in my opinion, that sounds like a viable project, and the commission can further discuss that if they'd like.
Mr. Janae, do you have anything to add? All the projects were set forth in the support material. Any questions before I take public comment? Vice Chair East?
Did we previously hear Project 2122 like maybe a couple of years ago and decided not to fund it? There's something ringing a bell with me that we heard it a couple of years ago, and because there was something to it that we didn't care for, it was maybe the practice of something. I'm recollecting something, but I don't remember what it is. Nobody recalls? Okay.
Commissioner Barnes?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Regarding Project 2122, when I was looking through this, I did kind of question whether this is something that should come out of the Heritage Project or not. I mean, my thoughts are, Heritage is kind of on the ground, more directly related to what this project seems to be. And I know the money is there, but I just kind of question if this project actually really falls into what the Heritage account was intended for. I mean, if there's extra money, I think we could spend it on seed for fire restoration. I mean, that's just kind of, directly affected by wildfire, and seen a lot of effects of wildfire and the amount of ground that still needs to be rehabbed. That if there's anything left, we could do that, put it that way, or pinyon juniper renewable. But in my mind, this project really doesn't fall under what the Heritage account was for. So
Comments or questions? Commissioner Hubbs?
Yeah, I just wanted to know, we don't have, obviously, the specifics. The committee's reviewed the specifics to these proposals or these project numbers. At least I don't have it in my packet. I have one So it's hard to know like what was proposed to the committee and what was accepted, you know, or what was everything proposed, accepted? You know, are there a lot of projects that weren't taken on by the committee? So I was trying to find, there was reference that we saw those project numbers, but I didn't see them. I'm just reading off our agenda right now.
Okay, well, it was in my support material that I got for this commission meeting, like, and that was the same as what we had at the committee level. Now, I believe that as we went through the committee, and Commissioner Valentine, correct me if I'm wrong, we approved all projects with the exception of what you noted on the fencing.
Correct.
And decided to approve all projects given that we have the new flexibility to spend some of I need to get that.
Yeah.
That's like my notes for the hearing.
So just so you know, Brad, this is what I got for 9E.
Oh.
I think Shoni printed what was on the commission website. All of that backup packet was on the committee website, except for 21, 22.
Right, so I received a total of 9 pages, or 10 pages, and it reflects
Well,
the...
I don't know, because I know I received this in the envelope that was in my packet. So I didn't go back to my committee packet and pull it.
So, Mr. Chair, I mean, it sounds like it's a pretty small universe anyway, just the Cave Creek stuff. So, with respect to that, was the fence proposal for, what was the fence proposal for? I mean, was it to, and there's a reason why I'm asking. I'm kind of going where Commissioner Barnes is. I had a thought on it. This is a really bad time to have like a lot of money sitting in an account, and maybe we need to be thinking about that the next, if not today, then maybe the next commission meeting. I know Director Wasley can maybe help us out with that at some point, but you know, the seed thing keeps popping into my mind too, and you know, I'm all for helping with the seed banks if we've got them, or doing stuff like that. But was it really going to benefit a private landowner more or something, or was there benefit to the agency, or?
You know,
Chairman Johnson.
go ahead.
In my opinion, it appeared to me that fencing material was going to be utilized more for private purposes, for cattle. And that's why I felt that it was not appropriate for heritage funding to be utilized. We were short of funding for all of the projects, and we felt that all the projects were good and that we could dip into that principal amount. I think it's somewhere around $100,000 difference in funding the total projects going forward, with the caveat that the fencing be removed from project 2021.
So what's listed on our agenda is reflective of the 100% coverage, of 100% of what was asked for then?
Yep.
I'm apologize. I thought I got it with my support material, and it looks like I didn't. I must have had it sitting there, but also being on the committee and having gone through all the projects before, I didn't go through them all over again. So I guess I didn't get it either.
Yeah, in the past, we've had that comparison of what was proposed and what was approved, and so, I mean, if these are the numbers of what was requested and it's reflected in the agenda item here, then that's good. I mean, I'm fine. I'm fine with spending another $100,000 to fill them all too, minus whatever we take out.
And I forget, how much of the principal did the committee agree?
So, for the record, this is Alan Janae, Habitat Division Administrator. With the funding proposals, if 21-22 was included, actually, without 21-21 or 21-22, you would go over by 121-169, 120. I apologize. We normally have this up on the screen.
Yeah.
Cut
It's
out.
all right.
Grab another one.
Thank you. Correction.
He might have turned it off.
So, as proposed, by the committee,
He did.
with the 50,000 going to the Cave Valley collaboration, taking the fence off of there, and including Project 2122, which was not heard by the committee, that would give a total of $1,389,446, and that would exceed this year's annual funding by $121,169.
So if 22 is removed, then we're $46,000 closer to filling that hole. So the original request for 21 was 82,000?
The original request for Project 2121, the Cave Valley collaboration, was actually 102,200, and so there was 52,200 that was taken off for the fence. And when we looked at the budget, the committee looked at the budget during that committee, that portion was the fence.
Okay.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Okay, let's take it out to public comment on the agenda item 9E, the fiscal year 2021 Heritage Project proposals. Any public comment? Mr. Dixon?
Rex Flowers for the record. I would hope you would not fund 21-22, the dissemination of the results. We should have gotten all the results of the Heritage Project for this out of the original monies that were given to it. The money she's asking for now on the 46,000, if you look at it, they're asking for money to actually, I would say, employ a graduate student for a year and pay his tuition to finish his education. I have a real problem with taking care of one individual for that sort of money. Also, there's a real lack of transparency there. If you look, it's highlighted that there is other monies that are being put into this funding or into this project, but she cannot tell you, the University of Nevada will not allow her to tell you what funds that they're putting into it. That lacks transparency, and the sportsmen deserve to have that transparency. Thank you.
Well, Rex, you took one of my thunderbolts away, which is 21-22. We had the same comment, which is, why are we paying for the conclusion of a study to present results and pay for a graduate student to generate those results when it should have been part of the study up to this point in time, number one. Number two, when we looked at the PJ thinning on here, we've had trouble this last year, not because of COVID-19, but because of getting a vendor to come out and do PJ thinning within the amount of money we're allocating. The last project that we had approved that got delayed was because the bid they put out there came in almost triple what we had allocated to do the thinning, not 75,000, but 225,000. And one last small comment, which is in the Upland Game Bird request, we also have a PJ Thinning proposal in there to get funded. And I'm wondering, I thought Heritage handled all the PJ Thinning. Why is it in Upland Game Bird? Why wouldn't have that been pulled forward into this Heritage account as something? And so if we're going to fund PJ Thinning out of the Heritage, then why are we having it in Upland Game Bird? Is my only comment since we haven't come to that. Thank you.
Any additional public comment? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the commission.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I guess the two questions that are in my mind is, are we wanting to reallocate the 46,000 to some kind of a seed purchase? There's not a specific project or anything, but is that something that we can do, or reallocate it to one of these other projects? And then there's about 75,000 and change that wasn't funded to fund the total request. Is this the time to say we're going to pull that additional money out of the Heritage account and go ahead and pay for those 100%? I guess I'm asking for thoughts.
Okay. Commissioner Keel?
I guess we do have a project with the wildfire-related restoration and seed purchase would be the 21-04 that we could allocate additional funds to, correct?
For the record, Alan Janae, Habitat Division Administrator. You could reallocate, as was mentioned earlier, as currently you are dipping into the Heritage principal, you're beyond the annual funding that comes in from all of the programs that fund this, so you're beyond the annual allocation. Now you're dipping into the account principal. So it would be the choice of this commission.
So the 220, so the project 22 was not part of the totals as far as the numbers that you threw out to us just now, the 1.389436 in requests did not include that 46.
So the number I gave you when I said you would be 120 some thousand
Right.
over, that included 2122. You take that off, that takes you down to approximately 75,000 that you would still be going into the Heritage account principal.
Yeah. So I'm fine with reallocating that 46 to at least that to that seed area. I mean, you're not going to bite too much of that, and then the conversation is, with that other 75, do you just leave it alone and go with what's proposed, or, like I said, I'm worried about it this year. I don't know. This is a tough place to have that conversation, I think, but I think that money, with their special session coming up, let's face it, there's some big holes, and it'd be nice to keep it with department interests at least. As much as from a public health side, I appreciate anything that would go into helping with the situation we're in, but from a commission standpoint and from where I'm sitting up here, I'd be nice to, have that consideration at least.
Commissioner Barnes?
Yeah, Al, I'm going to kind of put you on the spot. I am kind of partial to rehabbing and getting that money on the ground, but there's a lot of these other projects, and I don't know, if there's anything in here that another project that you could see could maybe use that 46,000 more than seed. I guess I don't want to get I'm partial to the seed and the rehab stuff, but is there another project that you see that could possibly benefit more than the purchase of the seed?
At this time, I would say that given the trends in wildfire and that the committee funded all other proposals at full levels with the exception of K Valley, I would say, that's my bias as well. So
Okay.
you might ask Mike.
So we have the same bias.
Tony. Yeah, exactly.
discussion, motion, something. Okay, Commissioner Hobbs.
This is just a question. I'm sorry, Chairman Johnson, but I just, we don't have a lot of the materials, so I'm just going off of the agenda. But what I noticed is like there's a program called Moose Monitoring, which I think is cool. Like I like it, but we're getting 15,000 or so back, but and we had originally requested 28, and we're requesting 20. And what are we doing there too? I just am like, why are we getting money back, but we're still doing it? Is it just a lower scope project that needs to be whittled down a bit? And that's not that much money, but at the same time, there's no clarification as to what's going on.
Commissioner Hubbs, Mike Scott for the record. That's an ongoing project. Last year, we only caught and collared 4 moose. We were looking to catch more, and we have collars in hand, but we didn't use the helicopter time that we needed simply because we couldn't find enough moose. But we'd like to continue that, get more moose collared, determine much more of their range, their habitats that they're using, and what numbers we actually have in Nevada. So we're pretty excited about that project in the game division.
Okay.
Can I make a motion? Oh, Commissioner Barnes.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion. In my motion, I'm not going to include the Desert Creek Conservation easement. I can include that in another motion, but I'm going to exclude that just so that you'll have the opportunity to vote on the motion that I'm going to make. So with that said, I'm going to move to approve fiscal year 2021 Heritage Project proposals. Project 2101, 2102, 2103, 2104, 2106, 2107, 2108, 2109, 2110, 2111, 2112, 2113, 2114, 2115, 2116, 2117, 2118, 2119, 2120, 2121, and I want to increase project 2104, 46,000.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Barnes, seconded by Vice Chair East, to approve all of the Heritage Project proposals, save and except for 2105 and 2122, with the addition of $46,000 to 2104. Is everybody clear on the motion? All those in favor signify. Commissioner Hobbs?
My only concern is we have dissemination of results from delineation of lambing habitat, population demographics, resource selection, and movement patterns of desert bighorn sheep, which I think is really important. Dissemination meaning we know what the data says. We want to exclude that because we feel that this data should have been analyzed under some prior commitment. Is that true? And was that, I just want to know if that's in fact what should have happened, because what we're doing is everyone comes here and wants to know about lambing behavior and our bighorn sheep populations, especially when it comes to quota setting time and season setting time. And we're going to throw away a project where we're going to disseminate the results of that study because we feel a certain way right now. And I want to know from our department, did we have this person who was doing this study say that they would disseminate the results, or was there only going out in the field and obtaining the data and giving it back to NDOW? Because I think we're going to regret not having the data again if we just throw out a project. So I just want to be very sure we're all on board with throwing out a bunch of data right now. It's not going to be disseminated. We just gathered it for no reason, and it's not going to be presented to us anymore because nobody's disseminating it. and that nobody's upset when it comes down to why we don't know what's going on with lambing, because we want to get more seeds. I mean, that's fine if that's what we want to do. But, you know, why is this issue on the page? Was this project supposed to be completed, or was it only a partial project where they were just doing data gathering? And we need to complete this project. I guess that's my only issue at this time.
Let me try to, the first time I've seen this project was in my support material, and as the asterisks indicated that the committee didn't have the opportunity to review it. I think for me, when I looked at that and I saw it disseminate, as you'll see on all these heritage proposals, there's a specific question that says, how will this information be shared? And so I think what some of the public comment today was getting at is that this is a continuation of a project that once already indicated in a proposal how the results would be shared, and then is coming back at a subsequent point in time and asking for additional money to share it in a way that had already been previously articulated. And it isn't just the publication cost, but is some additional analysis. And there's some speculation there on my part, because as I indicated, this is the first time I've seen this. I don't know how it came about, and so I would certainly invite staff to shed some light on it if they could. But I know that this is a continuation of an existing project where it's my belief that there's already a proposal that exists out there that answers the question, how will these results be disseminated? And that question was answered in a previous proposal, but despite that, there's additional requests for money to disseminate that. So the agency has the data, or at least access to it. A big portion of this, I believe, is, as indicated in the proposal, are publication costs. And to Commissioner Barnes' point, that may not be as consistent with the intent of the Heritage Program and getting tangible benefits on the ground. And so I would invite staff, either Game or Habitat, to correct me if I'm wrong in some of those assumptions and speculation. But I believe if we went back and looked at the original proposal to do this work, there would be a clear indication of how that information would be disseminated, and it wasn't that there would be an additional ask to fund that future dissemination.
Well, I think here's the problem, and I think the public comment alluded to it. This budget request and the justification is set forth in it is if data collected from projects like this are not published in outlets that have been through the peer review process, which increases the rigor associated with it and gives the information more credence. Okay, but then the budget justification, we budget $46,000 for salary for student/LOA for 1 year tuition and publication costs. I can't reconcile that with the purpose of the Heritage account. Perhaps Heritage money was okay to fund the study, but not Heritage money to come back for this budget proposal. $8,000 for publication charges for 3 to 4 professional, e.g. peer-reviewed publications, 6 months of graduate assistant salary, and following graduation to fund. I mean, this to me sounds to me like someone who's studying who wants funding for their peer-reviewed publications so they can advance their academic career. And that's not what the Heritage account's designed for, so I can't support it.
Okay, but when you look at this overall, it says dissemination of results from delineating lambing habitat. Also population demographics. Maybe that is outside Heritage. Lambing habitat to me is, resource selection is, movement and patterns of desert bighorn sheep could be questionable, but my issue is, if we have this data and we don't look at the scientific process and publish it, what good is it really for us to rely on it, because it's going to go in front of an academic community under rigor, and we're going to know if this holds up. This information that we saw.
The department's not publishing it. It's some student, and the budget request is $46,000 for salary and tuition and publication costs. And when they sit this and then they highlight in yellow, the University of Nevada, a public institution funded by the people of Nevada, will not allow me to fill out this table? I don't care how valuable the publication may be, and I'm not questioning that it might be valuable. I'm just not going to support Heritage money to pay for $46,000 of tuition and salary. I just can't support that.
So does the department feel very clear that they understand the data that was presented to them and that they've analyzed it themselves and understand when we ask questions about what lambs want in their habitat, what does their population demographics look like, what's their resource selection and movement of patterns of desert bighorn sheep, in terms of the state, they feel equipped to answer those questions to the general public. They don't need a peer-published scientific paper.
I think that certainly there are instances, there are issues that are much more hotly debated. For example, the noise impacts to sage-grouse strutting activity, where the benefits of a peer-reviewed journal article are going to carry a lot more weight in our technical review in the NEPA process. I think that there's a lot, this information has application in its current form to management. We can make those management decisions. I don't think that the data has is going to be as rigorously debated or potentially as controversial, as far as providing technical review on NEPA evaluations. But I would ask Habitat and Game if they have a different view of it. I mean, anything that's peer reviewed is gonna have greater value. But I don't see us engaging in a lot of debates over lambing area. We're typically people typically give us deference because of our statutory responsibilities and our knowledge in that area.
Right, but we constantly come to our commission meetings and we don't know why our juvenile lambs are not being successful. We can't really answer that. And I'm like, why would we turn our back on data that might be actually peer reviewed and published? Is there something going on in the habitat that we need to look at? And I just feel like that could be short-sighted, and I'm just going to say that because we constantly are saying there's poor recruitment for the bighorn sheep or whatever, but we're not going to take the time to figure out if there's something that could potentially be found there in the data that's showing why there might be poor recruitment.
Could turn green.
Generally, when
It's not on.
I would prefer that the department ask to have their students learn information for our benefit. This just seems to be that they want to continue the study. Certainly there's some value there, but I'm with Tony. I don't see that this is that important that we would fund this project.
Maybe the important distinction to make, based on your characterization, we aren't turning our back on the data. The data, and we've worked hand in hand with the student and been part of the process and the design, the analysis, and so that information. But the subtlety, the nuance of habitat selection and the value of it in management application and technical guidance isn't the same as other data that is, like I say, more hotly debated or contested in land management decisions. And so if it was in fact, if we were leaving money, if we were stranding money in a project and walking away from data that could answer those questions, I think that would be a really important consideration. But I don't think any of us feel as though the project hasn't been valuable and provided insight that has management application. But taking it that next step to the peer-reviewed stage, I think the determination is that the benefit isn't worth the cost in this for this particular project.
does the data say? What does it say overall in general? From all of this data, like what did we get from lambing habitat? What did we find out then?
All right, we're beyond the agenda item. There's a motion and a second. We need to vote on the motion because now getting into the issue of what the data is not what the agenda item is. That's for a separate meeting. So we've got a motion and a second on the proposals, save and accept for the two. So let's call for the vote on that. If we want a future agenda item on what this data suggests, we can put that on the agenda, but we're getting far afield from what the agenda item is. And then we're getting too much away from the fact that we have a motion with a second and I haven't called for the vote. So is everybody clear on the motion?
Yes.
All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries 8-1 with Commissioner Hubbs dissenting. Commissioner Barnes.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I'd like to make another motion regarding the heritage projects. I move to approve heritage project for fiscal year 2021, 21-5.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Barnes, seconded by Commissioner Almberg to approve, seconded by Commissioner Keel, 21-05. Everyone clear on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 8-0 with Commissioner Johnston abstaining. Okay, with that, we'll move on to agenda item number 10. Duck stamp request wildlife specialist Mike Zarodka and Division Administrator Alan Janae for possible action. The Commission will review and may take action to approve up to $50,100 for projects submitted for fiscal year 2021, funding from the duck stamp account. The specific duck stamp projects that may be approved are listed below. Ducks Unlimited Wetlands Conservation Support, $10,000. Eastern WMA Complex Weed Control, $10,000. Key Pittman Wildlife Management Area Wildlife Food Plots, $2,600. Ducks Unlimited Wetland Enhancement Support at Mason Valley WMA, $5,000. Mason Valley WMA Habitat Improvements, $10,000. Mason Valley WMA Water Control Structure Replacement, $12,500. I take it Mr. Zarodka's not here, so Division Administrator Alan Janae.
Thank you. For the record, Habitat Division Administrator Alan Janae. Those are the projects you have in front of you for FY21. A total request out of duck stamp account for $50,100, matched with an additional $109,000 from other funding sources. If anybody has any questions about particular projects, I can answer those at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Janae. Any questions on the duck stamp request? Which, I guess, do we need to rename that since we don't have a state duck stamp? But that's just what we've continued.
There's still a specific allocation within every license towards duck stamp.
Got it. Any questions for Mr. Janae? This is an action item. Is there any public comment? Seeing no public comment, I'll bring it back to the commission for further discussion or a motion. Okay, Vice Chairman East.
If I can get my microphone to work. I move to approve, find the thing, sorry, the duck stamp request as presented.
Second.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion by Vice Chair East, seconded by Commissioner Almberg to approve the duck stamp request as presented. Any further discussion or comment? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 9-0. With that, we can move on to agenda item 11, public comment period. Persons wishing to speak are requested to complete a speaker's card and present it to the recording secretary. No action can be taken by the commission at this time. Any item requiring commission action may be scheduled on a future commission agenda. Do we have any public comment? Mr. Perrier?
I just like to take this opportunity to thank the Commission
I'm representing NBU Reno for getting the heritage tags to us. We're hoping to have a dinner next year, depending on what happens. If not, we had a fairly, I think, a very successful auction with the help of getting lists from anywhere from Fanaz, Grand Slam Obus, getting the word out, Hunting Fool, some private parties. We got their lists, emailed everybody, and it worked well. And if that happens to a lot of the tags, we could throw additional tags on the same platform and do it over a 1 month period. It worked well. And thank you.
Thank you. Any additional public comment? Seeing none, we will be adjourned until tomorrow morning at 8:30. I'll see you all then.